We in there? All right. Well, good morning, everybody. This is Justice's Waiting Room. Hey, this is a daily live podcast. So think of it like a live show. Burp. I'll say it. You want me to say it? The President of the United States was witness to infanticide, per the Epstein files. I'm sure everybody wants to talk about that first. And that's the thing that's on your mind. But what I refuse to do is to say his fucking name or let him lead my show. Here you go. His ego versus mine, mine wins. So we're gonna talk about everything. I'll talk about the weather before I talk about that motherfucker. If I had it my way, I put him. He'd be in the post-show notes if I had it my way. To the war front, Ukraine took out Russia's only submarine hunter aircraft before it destroyed a Kilo class submarine. It took out a Tu-38N patrol aircraft. Love to see it. Oh, every day when we start this show, we listen to War by Edwin Starr as a just as a reminder. Wanted to my beautiful wife Taylor and Bob and Stacy and Danielle. Good to see everyone. I like to see Ukraine pick apart Russia. I like it. Um, Russian authorities say three were killed in a car explosion in Moscow. Two police officers and a third person. Now, what I think when I see these kinds of stories in The Guardian is, I mean, that must be pretext for the death of a political figure, business person, some. And as far as internationally, these are one of those stories that you like reporting on. Australia is deporting a British man charged with displaying Nazi symbols. Send all Nazis packing. Love to see it. Yeah. Kick them straight out of the country. South African national, by the way, have been living in Australia since 2022. Okay. Called for violence against Jewish people. He was on a visa. Okay. Remember, if you don't have a formal education, you are very likely stupid. And the problem with stupid people is that they're racist. And it just so happened that we spent a lot of time and energy in this country over the last like 20, 30 years, my whole life, trying to stamp out racism. And it's a hallmark of Russia. It's their key to the West. If they can have white people up in arms, talking about how um, we're gonna go extinct and shit. You sound stupid. Hmm. That's stupid. In response to getting their ass kicked over and over and over again, the U.S. has delayed their announcement of Chinese chip tariffs. Say that three times fast. Remember, he's a fucking coward, right? Donald Trump always chickens out. Donald Trump got bored trying to war in Venezuela, is unable to do so, and has turned his attention to Greenland. And as a reminder, that's a sovereign state, and Denmark is a NATO ally. And we have no need to annex Greenland from Denmark. That's our ally. What the fuck is wrong with this idiot? I also think he's dying. And I know I say that a lot, but it's just true. Hmm. What's a good C word? Crisp? I'm sharing the show real quick. I'm doing exactly what my wife dislikes. Because there's only like 8 people watching, and so you use that as a motivator to share the show. Yeah, I said have a crispy Christmas Eve because there's not another good C word. Hashtag JWR. News and politics and free Palestine. Slava Ukraine. Like every day. Gonna be real honest with you. Uh, I had a conversation with one of my coworkers. Had to shut my brain off to be able to have that conversation. I had to completely suspend my disbelief, and I want to talk about it. Okay, so I found out that a coworker of mine was born in Ukraine, and I thought, oh, what a wonderful opportunity. Okay, for me to let them know that I'm now. What do you think they say after I say Slava Ukraine? If you had, he went into a diatribe about people immigrating to the United States and stealing benefits from Americans and getting paid a couple $1,000s a month just for food. And I tried to, suspending my disbelief, relate and say, yeah, I read a story about how they're taking in IDF soldiers and treating them for PTSD here in the United States. Trying to level with the guy, right? And I did try to stick in there. Immigrants aren't, depending on how you got over here, you're not eligible for those benefits if you weren't born here. And he said, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going off of what I've seen with my own eyes. And I'm dead ass. I almost blurted out, how many immigrants have you been in the presence of that get thousands of dollars a month just for food from the US government? How many of those people do you know personally? And I'm guaranteeing that the fucking number is zero, you goddamn clown. But I was on the clock at work, so I was just like, oh yeah, that's cool, man. Get me the fuck out of this meeting. Like, what are we even talking about? Jesus Christ. So, my mantra of don't get to know people, they're gonna fucking disappoint you. Bat 1,000. Thanks a lot. Ooh, look. A real president, Volodymyr Zelensky, has unveiled a revised 20-point peace plan. It's only got 20 points. Oh my god. My bullshit meter was fucking freaking out. It was pinged all the way to the right. Like, ping! What the fuck do you mean? Yeah, man, people come to the United States and they just soak up all these benefits. And I'm just like, that ain't even fucking true. But, like, again, like, oh my god, you're living in a fucking fantasy world. You know? Or I don't know about fantasy world. I mean, this could be pretty nightmarish, depending on how you think people should. If you think people are getting paid thousands of dollars a month to illegally immigrate here, I'm also willing to bet you think lots of other fucking insane shit as well. So let's see. Confirmation of Ukraine's sovereignty, non-aggression agreement between Russia and Ukraine, monitoring on the contact line, security guarantees, peacetime cap on Ukraine and military. U.S., NATO, and Europe will provide Ukraine with security guarantees based on NATO's Article 5 Mutual Defense Clause. A new Russian invasion is to be met with a military response and renewed sanctions. Russia will enshrine a non-aggression policy towards Europe and Ukraine and all necessary laws. The Ukraine will become an EU member at one point, with plans to fix the accession date. The creation of several funds to address recovery issues. Their goal? 800 billion. The acceleration of the free trade agreement between Ukraine and the U.S. Ukraine's nuclear-free status. Uh, there's a nuclear power plant. The U.S. offers a trilateral agreement with the U.S.'s chief manager. Kiev offers to split the output 50-50. Educational programs in schools to promote understanding and tolerance of different cultures and to eliminate racism and prejudice. Hmm. But yeah, that's a good thing. It's the holidays. There. I think this happened like right after our show yesterday, but Russia fired like 34 cruise missiles, and all of them were intercepted by F-16s, which is rad. Here's rare footage from a trial of Chinese general who defied Tiananmen crackdown order. Rare footage of the People's Liberation Army general who defied orders to lead his troops in Tiananmen Square and crush the 1989 student protesters has been leaked online. It's been the stuff of, yeah, that's crazy. To be able to go back and watch the trial. 6-hour video of General Zhu's court-martial hearing. He did not want to become a sinner in history. Meanwhile, Donald Trump says he'll keep or sell all the oil we seize from Venezuela, and I want to point out that Mr. Global said we have no need for the oil Venezuela produces. Just make sure you and I and we say that. Yeah, there's oil there. Not our kind of oil. A ground drone has defended Ukraine's infantry positions against Russian assaults for 45 days. The armored ground robot. This is what the fuck I am talking about. What does that look like, everyone? That looks like a fucking droid. Rolling droid from Star Wars. What was it called? Droideka? I love Star Wars. But here, look at the familiarity between Droideka and this ground drone. Destroyer droids is what they're called. Or Droideka. That's Star Wars, for those of you who are currently like, is he speaking fucking Sputnik? The Lukoil petrochemical plant is in flames after the second Ukrainian long-range drone strike in 6 weeks. I know, you're all clamoring to talk about how the President of the United States was witness to infanticide. Trying not to say his fucking name. Myrnarod defense holds as Russians are eliminated upon approach. Hell yeah. Look, Ukrainian troops are holding defensive lines near Myrnarod in the Donetsk Oblast and destroying Russian forces attempting to approach the city. Military says the fighting remains intense, but Ukrainian units continue active defense and offensive actions. Russian assaults have failed to break through Ukrainian positions. And there's a map. It's really important to me. Russia looks like they're about to be fucked. They're they're surrounded on 3 sides. Anyway, that's a pretty interesting article with the map there at the end. There was a third man involved in that Bondi Beach shooting. Check this out. A bomb-making list, firearms, and extremist flags were seized from Perth man accused of backing the Bondi attackers. Police charged Martin Thomas Glenn with making anti-Semitic comments on social media after he allegedly pledged support for the Bondi shooters just hours after the attack. Wow. Jesus Christ, this is how wars start. All right, in the Middle East, okay, Libya's Tripoli-based Western District Colonel General Muhammad Ali al-Haddad, fuck, died in a plane crash Tuesday after leaving Turkey's capital Ankara. The Prime Minister of Libya's internationally recognized government said, adding that four others were on that jet as well. This followed a tragic and painful incident while they were returning from an official trip from the Turkish city of Ankara. This grave loss is a great loss for the nation, for the military institution, and for all the people. Um, and it looks like they lost the signal with the jet. Belgium joins South Africa's genocide case against Israel. Brussels files declaration of intervention, joining Brazil, Colombia, Ireland, Mexico, Spain, and Turkey in supporting the case against Israel at the World Court. Good. I want to make sure that we take our time on this show to say, hey, gotta control what you can control. Science says like 9 hours of sleep. Eat right, drink water, exercise, breathe. And understand that the Israel of today is not the Israel from the Bible. The Israel of today was founded in 1948 by David Ben-Gurion, who was then the head of the Jewish Agency. The entire purpose of Israel from the time it was founded was to mimic the United States' imperialist and expansionist ways. And boy, have they. That's exactly what they do. They do it exactly like we've done it, right? The difference is, and I told you, the difference is the IDF will go farther than just about any American will go. hmm So you shouldn't be surprised that Israel's being taken to task by the World Court. China warns Ukraine against sanctioning Chinese companies over alleged support for Russia. United 24 Media reporting. China's talking that shit. They're telling Japan to calm the fuck down. They're telling Ukraine to calm the fuck down. Back off report, saying that you're going to support Taiwan. Now Ukraine's going to start sanctioning companies that are still doing business with Russia. China and India and North Korea. Hmm? I want to continue to point out that it's not called Chernobyl. It's called Chornobyl. Only the Russians call it Chernobyl. Yeah, fuck China, man. Not real happy with China. They're an antagonist. That's what they do. The French Parliament has unanimously exonerated women punished for abortion. Justice. Right? French lawmakers have unanimously approved a landmark bill exonerating women who were punished for having abortions before the procedure was legalized in 1975. a move hailed by feminist groups as a symbolic affirmation of reproductive rights. China and Russia's partnership is stronger than ever, despite Western sanctions. Yeah. Now, understand that part of the reason to do business with Russia is because their prices have to be at the lowest they've ever been. Yesterday was day 1,399, so almost 1,400 days of war. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Hope you have a fantastic Christmas Eve. Okay. We're about halfway through the first half of the show. We always talk about world news, right? Because what's going on all over the world has a direct impact to what happens here in the United States. Um, One of the things that I've learned in my life is that there are no new stories and no new ideas, especially not out of this regime. So if you watch them close enough, they're copycats. And they're the worst kind. They have a little bit of revisionist history. I mean, Donald Trump had a copy of Mein Kampf bedside. I just want to point out the man's not known for being a fucking reader. Okay? Most men that age have the goddamn Bible bedside. And they're praying for fucking sweet silence. Okay? In the space race. Here's India TV. The ISRO chairman hails the historic LVM-3 success. The Bluebird Block 2 becomes India's heaviest launch, and it's a satellite. So despite India doing business with Russia, remember, you do not cede territory in conflict. When you give up land, you give up all the resources on that land, and you are effectively empowering that army. When you're ready, when you're ready, when you're in conflict and you're able to take over like heavy mineral laden areas, and that's what you're fighting over, that tells you that they need that to continue. I'm gonna read this. From Mint, after facing embarrassment overseas due to illegal begging, visa violations, and document fraud, the Pakistan government has banned its nationals with incomplete travel documents and professional beggars. What the fuck is a professional beggar? From traveling abroad. What the fuck is a professional beggar? I didn't even know that was a fucking thing. Hey, in Pakistan is saying they will punish people who bring. Body gave you no choice. 66,000 passengers had been offloaded from Pakistani airports this year over suspected irregular travel. Tens of thousands were deported from Gulf states and other countries amid a broader crackdown on illegal migration. Still fighting. The Kurds and Syrians still fighting. Yeah, absolutely. Please, please take care of yourself. Yeah, this is that story that we were just talking about, that a private jet, so it's already a private jet, lost contact, had a high-ranking uh, military chief from Libya in it, crashed and he died. It's not sus at all. And it was over Turkey. Pro-Russian hackers claimed that attack on the French Postal Service. So remember we talked about that, and we were kind of like, that smells like Russia. That smells like something Russia would do. Russian and Chinese hackers. Israel has extended an order allowing the closure of foreign broadcasters. The fuck does that even mean? One of those. So here, Israel's parliament has extended an order allowing the government to shut down foreign broadcasters operating in the country. This is a direct violation of freedom of speech. The government cracking down on broadcast. Okay? The legislation passed 22 votes to 10. It expands temporary powers introduced during the Gaza war to shutter outlets seen as a threat to national security. It allows the government for the next 2 years to cease operations of a foreign outlet even in peacetime and without the need for a court order. Originally dubbed the Al Jazeera Law, the powers were used to shut down the Qatari-owned channel's offices and block its broadcasts in May of 2024. Israel accused Al Jazeera, which has been a strong critic of Israel's military campaign in Gaza, of anti-Israel bias and of supporting Hamas in its coverage. I want to continue to point out that Benjamin Netanyahu and the IDF created Hamas. It's fucking insane to throw around you're a Hamas supporter and you're anti-Israel if you're critical of Israel. Israel created Hamas. What are you talking about? This is their shit. It is an attack on press freedom. Mm-hmm. And it's illegal as fuck. The Association for Civil Rights in Israel said last year that the temporary order violated freedom of expression, the right to information, the freedom of the press, and blocked citizens and residents from receiving a variety of information that does not fit the Israeli narrative and is not broadcast on Israeli media channels. Mm-hmm. Bloomberg reporting the U.S. has sanctioned a former EU official and 4 others in a random swipe at Europe. He's just lashing out, right? He's got his eyes closed. You know, I imagine Donald Trump as a screaming toddler. Every day when he wakes up, he's upset, doesn't know why or who, but he's angry. Trump administration on Tuesday imposed visa sanctions on the former European Union Commissioner Terry Breton and 4 other people trying to make American tech companies police political speech on their platforms. extraterritorial censorship, which is a made up term. Extraterritorial censorship? The what the fuck? The Taiwan Ministry of Foreign Affairs has warned of scams luring people to Japan. Yeah. A lot of, one of the things that I try not to do is bitch about views and shit. I've been suppressed. I've been saying it. I was going viral like once a week on TikTok, once every 3 days, until I called out Cash Patel for using the FBI as personal security. And ever since I did that, um, I, my shit might hit 1,000 views, but it'll be, weeks after I create it, which is insane. But it's almost as insane as understanding I had 0 followers and had never posted on TikTok like a year ago, and got to over 16,000 followers inside 90 days. And I still have 16,000 followers. Like, we haven't flinched. Same thing happened on YouTube. I was a Vox Media employee for 6 years, posting regular content about the NFL. Had 250 followers. Went from 250 followers to 2,000 followers and stopped. Still have 2,000. Now, ideally, when you have a couple thousand followers, when you post content, that should get 1,000 views. So it's pretty crazy, right? To post a video with thousands of people potentially that are following you, and for it to only get a couple hundred views is kind of fucking insane, right? Yeah. What happens every time I post a video is they say, hey, your video is doing really good, and then they send me a coupon and say, you need to pay for more views. So do you see, there are people just paying all kind of fucking money so that their posts continually they're getting enough dopamine out of their content. That's not why I make content. I actually struggle to get into a creative space because this is not what all I intended to do at all. Here's a story of the Iranian Navy setting sail for South Africa as Iran continues quest for deeper multilateral military ties. Yeah. Two armadas. And again, there's a reason we pay attention to international news, because it helps you understand what's going to happen here. Here's an article from CBC talking about the Canadian economy, which shrank in October, the most in 3 years. Wonder the fuck why. Just like Volodymyr Zelensky said, Russia's gonna attack over Christmas. Okay, several regions across Ukraine were hit overnight. I mean, think about the show. What does a streaming site want? And have gotten nothing from YouTube. Now, I think I gotta number my shows and I gotta upload them to be redistributed. Redistributed. But that means I gotta download episode by episode and upload episode by episode. And I failed to put a date and a episode number in the title of every episode. So I have to go back and do that manually. But I am going to aim to being more organized and doing more on my end to help the show grow. Mexico is shipping oil to Cuba for humanitarian purposes. It's the weirdest shit I've ever heard. I don't often feel like I've got it all under control, but when I'm live and I have to sneeze and I hit the button in time to mute myself, feels good, man. The Myanmar Navy has returned from Asian and U.S. maritime activities in Indonesia. Here you go. I'm trying not to blow out your eardrums. You know what I'm saying? 42 minutes in. A few more minutes we'll talk about, you know. U.S. philanthropist Howard Buffett visited frontline settlements near Kupiansk. Yeah, no, I'm all about like sneeze and make a bunch of noise, but not when you're live. Rocket crashes shortly after launch in a blow to Brazil's space ambitions. The incident also hit shares of South Korean satellite launch company Innospace. All right. So, had a successful launch and an unsuccessful launch today. Dumbest shit. Per Reuters, the U.S. has signed health agreements with African nations and warns against non performance. What? Here you go. U.S. signed four new global health memorandums of understanding with Madagascar, Sierra Leone, Botswana, and Ethiopia. Total nearly $2.3 billion in funding. The U.S. is going to commit 1.4 billion of that. Those four countries are going to contribute the other 900. Woohoo! Yawn. Yeah, we did talk about that 2 days ago. Nothing sacred for them. Yeah, yeah. In Euromaidan Press, the president of Ukraine did say, hey, they don't give a shit about. No way. All right, Buenos Aires Herald talking about Dr. K, a dictatorship era convicted torturer, has been granted parole in Argentina Eduardo Kalinek had been sentenced to life in prison in 2010 for his role in 3 clandestine detention centers. Granted parole. Did 15 years. Okay? For torture and murders committed during the military dictatorship from 76 to 83. Kalinek, known by his victims as Dr. K, served as the federal police commissioner during the dictatorship. He was convicted of crimes committed in 3 different detention centers in Buenos Aires, Atletico, Banco, and Olimpo. His lack of remorse and insufficient prognosis for social reintegration and international jurisprudence on crimes against humanity reversed his previous opinion. Been detained since September 1st, 2005. Filed lawsuits against one of his daughters. Jesus Christ. So, just so you know what kind of person this guy is, he's in prison, right? He filed a lawsuit against one of his daughters, Analia, for being unworthy, seeking to prevent her from receiving her mother's inheritance. Pardoned. Moving over to world news, or U.S. news. All right. One of the things that keeps happening, and I'm like, oh no, people just die, that sucks, is the president keeps denying disaster funds to Democratic-run states after a national disaster. Well, a federal judge has said the Trump administration must restore that disaster money to those Democratic states. Remember, shock and awe. It's not about what actually happens. Okay. USA has sanctioned the leadership of German organization Hate Aid. I don't know what the fuck that is, but we're about to talk about that. Alright, so the US has sanctioned Hate Aid. Here's Blue Wind talking about the 2 directors. Anna-Lena von Hodenberg and Josephine Ballone are affected. Von Hodenberg was awarded the Order of Merit from the Federal Republic of Germany for her work against digital violence. Hate Aid offers help if someone is confronted with offensive and discriminatory statements online. The entry bans imposed by the U.S. government also affect former French EU Commissioner Thierry Breton, we talked about that, considered the architect of EU's Digital Service Act, which regulates online platforms. The U.S. State Department also named 2 other people affected, the founder of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, Imran Ahmed, and the founder of the Global Disinformation Index organization, Claire Melford, both of whom campaign online against hate and discrimination. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had previously written on X, for far too long, ideologues in Europe have led organized efforts to force American platforms to punish American viewpoints that do not suit them. Under President Donald Trump, the U.S. government will no longer tolerate extraterritorial censorship and will introduce entry bans against leading figures in the global censorship industrial complex. That's not a word. You just want to make sure you understand this. This came out of Marco Rubio's mouth hole. Okay? Global censorship industrial complex. What they mean was military industrial complex. Okay? Random ass target. Okay? ABC News reporting consumer confidence in December has slid to the lowest levels since Donald Trump announced tariffs last year. I agree. Consumer confidence is very low right now. What happened? Two Bexar County Sheriff's deputies are in stable condition after being shot in a domestic disturbance call early Sunday morning. Just a few days ago, two cops shot. A woman was home when a 38-year-old man tried to break into the home, able to get away and call authorities. One cop got shot in the hip, the other one got shot in the hand, and the deputy shot the guy dead. I'm gonna go with maybe not. Yeah, maybe don't shoot at the cops. BBC reporting there was an explosion in Moscow like 5 hours ago. Oh, we talked about this. We talked about this. Sorry. I was like, dang, another explosion. We already yayed that one. All right. Epstein files show Andrew Mountbatten Windsor appeared to have asked Ghislaine Maxwell for new, inappropriate friends. You're starting to see. It's not. It's a lot more. Let me say this. Remember how when all this shit popped off, AOC was like, it's so much bigger than any of us could have ever imagined? I think what you're seeing is the trafficking of human beings as though they're just an object, up to including their murder, their disposal murder. Sorry, I think I got coffee on my schnoz. But yeah, want to make sure we throw this out there. Looks to me, the farther we get into this, it looks to me like very rich and powerful people were literally just ordering other people, like you and I order dessert. Yeah, I'll have the 14-year-old blonde. That's how they appeared to have been acting. Mm-hmm. Well, well, they ordered people like you order wine. Mm-hmm. Except the opposite way. Well, I don't fucking know. I don't order wine or minors, so I don't really know. Um, an American woman accused of killing her two children has been extradited to the United States from the UK. Kimberly Singler was arrested in London in 2023, a week after her two kids were found dead. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. Here's an article from The Guardian. What? I'm going to keep reading that story. Okay, so she killed her 9-year-old and her 7-year-old. She had an 11-year-old daughter that was injured but survived. They had superficial knife wounds, and so she marked herself and told the police that a man entered the apartment and attacked the family. The surviving daughter initially backed Singler's story, but eventually told an investigator that her mother said God made her do it. She was found days later in London's upscale Chelsea neighborhood. It's not known why she ended up there. Wow, what's interesting about this is her London defense attorney, Edward Fitzgerald, argued that Singler should not be extradited because if convicted of first degree murder in Colorado, she would face a mandatory sentence of life without parole, a sentence that violates European human rights laws. So, Edward Fitzgerald, it's important here, he also represented the WikiLeaks founder, Julian Assange. This is like a big deal. I mean, she killed her kids, right? Uh, in good news, we all needed some good news today, right? Raise your hand. Okay. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is mistakenly deported, gets to spend Christmas with his family. Okay. So I think that's great. All right, back to it. An explosion at a Pennsylvania nursing home kills at least 2 people. Holy shit. A thunderous explosion outside a nursing home in Philadelphia killed 2 people, collapsed the building. Oh. Like I posted on the quarter, a group of nasty men talking about the kids they could steal from other countries. And understand, women like Ghislaine Maxwell and Erica Kirk are about it. Erica Kirk ran a international human trafficking organization under the guise of Romanian Angels. Many people think Erica Kirk is Mossad, which is why Charlie Kirk died. Mm-hmm. To elevate her. Mm-hmm. All right, so we talked about this story that happened at Kentucky State, right? Uh, I'll, to I'll post the story and then we'll talk about it. Okay. So what had happened was, kid goes to college and is, I'm guessing, subject to some trauma, bullied, probably racism, it's whatever, right? So dad comes to get his kid, get him the fuck out of there, and ends up shooting another student. A judge has ruled that it was self-defense and is refusing to try him. An Oklahoma college professor has been fired for giving a failing grade to a college student's essay that sparked conservative outrage. She received 0 points out of 25 for my beliefs in using freedom of speech and especially for my religious beliefs. Graduate teaching assistant will no longer have instructional duties. The idiot's name is Samantha Fulnecki, a junior at the university, reported her psychology instructor Mel Kurth after receiving the grade and claimed she received 0 points out of 25. The assignment was to write a 650-word essay reacting to a psychology article about the effect of gender norms on middle school students and their impact on mental health. So you can understand, if you understand what the assignment was, why when she wrote about her beliefs in using freedom of speech, especially for her religious beliefs, had nothing the fuck to do with the assignment. And Samantha Fulnecki is a goddamn moron, attention whore. Okay? Her complaint was promoted by the university's chapter of Turning Point USA, to the surprise of fucking no one. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I haven't read it, but people online are saying it was poor. Yeah, fuck Turning Point USA. Yeah, I ain't never seen this person before, but the mother suspected of murder after officials find the body of California 9-year-old Melody Buzzard. Parents out here killing their kids. Speaking of people killing kids, the president of the United States. Yeah, I fucking hate Nick Fuentes too. Yeah, have a great Christmas scoop day if you celebrate, buddy. Was found in a rural area of Utah 2 months after she disappeared in Southern California. I'm gonna continue to read this story, okay? Maternal filicide is rare and always difficult to comprehend. This level of criminal activity is particularly shocking given the calculated, cold blooded, and criminally sophisticated premeditation and heartlessness that went into planning it. Hey, man, if you don't want kids, just don't have kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't really gotta. You, you know what I mean? All that planning and coordinating could have really done something with your life. Supreme Court has rejected Trump's bid to deploy the National Guard in Illinois. Well, to be fair, it happened in California, and then the body was found in Utah. There, there's a video in the article that I sent where the day the little girl went missing, she was wearing a wig with her mom out in public and on camera, like she was part of it, and then got whacked. 9 years old. Active shooter at a Delaware DMV. Oh man! But a trooper and a suspected shooter were killed. So. Oh, and by the way, here's a story from The Guardian talking about how you can undo all the redactions by copying and pasting. Apparently, I've never tried to redact something, so I don't know how. But that article seems like it might shine some light on that. Good luck. A Swiss court, by the way, is gonna hear. Perry Islanders climate change case against cement giant Holcim. Wholesome? It's not wholesome. I know it ain't that. We're such a mentally unstable society now. Gabby, I want to tell you, I was at a party when I came home from the Marine Corps. Okay? And I've been talking about how climate change is gonna fuck us. Don't worry. My whole life. Fucking sixth grade science fair project, climate change. Okay? I was at a party and my wife has met this couple. They were talking about having kids. And this is in the last decade. And I was like, that's a terrible fucking idea. And they were like, why? And your boy went on to explain the rising income inequality, right? Paired with climate change means that you're going to eat your kid. And they were like, what? What the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, well, if we can't afford to eat food and we're otherwise starving, what are you going to do? Kill the old and disabled? Eat them first? Fuck are we talking about? And people were not happy with me when I was trying to explain, like, hey, in the next 10, 20 years you won't be able to afford food. The Russians are 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 becoming cannibals. So I wasn't that far off. It's just a war happened, right? Russia invaded, right? Understand. Russia has lost more than 1.1 million people, which was more than its standing army, and has resorted to cannibalism on the battlefield. Hmm? So I wasn't that far off. See what happens? Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has not only given up his title, right, as a prince, he also has to give up his gun permit. Can't even carry a firearm anymore. Aw, everybody's favorite lovable loser, Russell Brand. That fucking turd. Charged with new offenses of rape and sexual assault. How did I not? You know what I'm saying? Did you not know that? You can't ignore the fact that Biden started this war by refusing the demands of what? Russia illegally invaded Ukraine. And I'm not sure where you got that the U.S. is required to uh, obey the demands of Russia. They're our enemy. Of course we don't obey their demands. They put bounties on American soldiers in Afghanistan. $250,000 a mission. They're our enemy. What the fuck are we talking about, dog? Get your shit together. Trump voting cattle ranchers are not happy because people are calling on them to reduce their beef prices. I'm hoping that was Gupta. I'm hoping that was sarcasm. I can handle that. I agree. Progressive Jews decry ADL Mamdani monitor for conflating Israel criticism with anti-Semitism. Here's a Wall Street Journal article about how to get a pardon out of Donald Trump very easily. In case you have been living under a rock, about 30, and I'm using whole numbers and words like about or around, about 30 Republicans are set to jump ship 2026. A little bit of a problem. A little bit of a problem. Republicans are fighting because some of them are like, hey, we should do something about these healthcare subsidies or we're going to get fucking destroyed in the midterms. And some of the Republicans are just choosing to get destroyed. Haley Robson, one of Donald Trump's victims that failed the Stanford prison experiment and started empathizing with her captor. iNews with a headline: MAGA's biggest fear is coming true and Trump won't survive it. Most damaging of all is a bombshell letter allegedly written by Epstein from prison. I don't think he wrote that. Based on an amateur uh, handwriting analyst that just simply said the other sample of his handwriting does not match. And they showed, here's the letter, here's a chalkboard. Do you see how they don't look the same at all? It's not his writing. I tend to kind of go, oh, what is the Times? What's the Times? I don't even know what this is. That's not a legitimate article. All right, the White House is designating certain Muslim Brotherhood chapters as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists. This is about a month ago. You can read about that. Yeah, they're gonna. Russia has already lost more than is in their standing army. They're literally pulling people out of the airport that are military age and being like, you owe service, you owe service. They're hiring people from foreign countries and making them clear mines. North Korea. Yeah, they're getting their fucking ass kicked, though. DHS has detained a woman whose lawyer says she's a U.S. citizen, and DHS is denying that. A family in Maryland is trying to find a woman arrested by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement whose attorneys say is an American citizen. U.S. government insists she's Mexican, and the government is wrong. Why don't we discuss a million people killed in Iraq? Hmm? What? Who killed a million people in Iraq? So understand, you said I'm holding you to it. You said a million. Wrong. Less than a quarter million dead at the hands of the U.S. You want to back the fuck up? So you said let's talk about a million dead in Iraq. I googled it. Did the U.S. kill a million people in Iraq? No. The total estimate over like 25 years, less than 200. Okay. What are we talking about? You're conflating numbers in the beginning of an argument to suit your narrative. You understand that you are woefully unprepared for this argument. There weren't any. Bush was misled by faulty intel. Don't let your mind wander. You'll get lost. But just because Russia and India are allies doesn't mean you need to be an ally to Russia. You cannot be. Tech regulators. That's who they. Yeah, right. She walks like Jack Skellington. That's funny. Oh, and by the way, part of the justification for the original invasion of Iraq was that Saddam Hussein mustard gassed his own people and killed his own people. Just saying. A lot of guys I served with feel justified for their time in Iraq because the Iraqi people were like, oh my God, thank you. If you weren't here, they would probably just kill us in the street. So, just saying. Oh my God, former Senator Ben Sass announces he has stage 4 pancreatic cancer and is gonna die. How? I don't even know who this person is. I don't know who this person is. Republican senator, by the way. Metastasized stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Jesus Christ. I'm blessed with amazing siblings and a half dozen buddies that are genuinely brothers, as one of them put it. Sure, you're on the clock, but we're all on the clock. Death is a wicked thief, and the bastard pursues us all. So he represented Nebraska for 8 years, and he resigned to serve as the president of the University of Florida. Wild, his wife was diagnosed with epilepsy last year. And then in the Senate, he was one of 7 Republicans who voted to convict Donald Trump in his second impeachment trial in relation to the January 6, 2021 riot. His frequent criticism of Trump drew the president's ire. Trump called the Nebraska Republican a grandstanding, little respected senator. Big article, Donald Trump says he's going to seize the pay of defaulted student loan borrowers in January. About 10 minutes left. I think we're done with the news in the U.S. here. MAGA's racism problem isn't Nick Fuentes, it's MAGA. Racism is stupid. Okay. Stupid people are racist. Okay. Racism is what connects Russia to the West. So if you're still racist in the United States, congratulations. You're repeating Russian disinformation, misinformation. Congratulations. Donald Trump says anyone who disagrees with me will not head the Federal Reserve. No shit. I don't think he actually gets to collect that. Remember, here's the thing that people, it's like your brains are broken. Okay? Just because he says it in an executive order does not make it law. The president does not have power of the purse. So any move he makes involving money, he could say it all day. He could say it all day. The best he can do is delay it. As we've seen, right? Now, there have been some funds that he cut, like USAID, real bad. But again, he doesn't actually have the way to do that. Whoa, 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 whoa. No. I'm not saying you, but it's like y'all's brains broke. Just because he says it doesn't mean that it's law now. He doesn't have the power of the purse. A bill is going to have to go through two houses, then he has to sign it, and that all has to happen by January. And I'm just saying, they do not move like that. They don't move anywhere near that speed. So I get it. He says it, and you're like, oh, fuck, I owe. But a defaulted student loan and a forgiven student loan are two different things. If you default on a student loan, you're thinking a defaulted student loan is one they can garnish. Most people have not defaulted on their student loans. They've either had them forgiven, they're under forbearance. I worked for Sallie Mae for like a year. Most people don't default on student loans. So if you defaulted on student loans, hey, I would never recommend you do that. Okay? What I would tell people to do, if you are worried about student loans, you need to go back to school part-time. It will always cost you less money to go to school part-time, take a couple classes, than it would to pay your fucking student loans, and it keeps them out of repayment. Because of the way they're structuring student loan repayment now, trying to remove IBR, again, I just happen to work in that industry. Them trying to limit your repayment options is going to force people to default on student loans. Because it'll be the same thing. Oh, and oh, by the way, if you have student loans and they're not Department of Ed loans, like they're held by another company, I could potentially help you with that. Where we could just like remove the interest and about half of what you owe. If you're sweating student loans, you got options. Okay? We want to have the greatest New Year's Eve party ever. Yeah. I would really prefer it if he did not make it to the new year. That would make a lot of things a lot more palatable. But yeah, who is that? Dina? Not talking about you at all. When I was saying like y'all's brains broken, that was like a general statement because what we tend to do is take what Donald Trump says at face value, right? And we're like, "Oh my god, it's going to he doesn't have that ability. Defaulted student loans can be garnished. Most people have not defaulted on student loans. Okay? And keep in mind, you can almost always forbear your loans You know what I'm saying? There's tons of things that you can do, especially if you can't afford it. Most people cannot afford to pay student loans on top of expanding healthcare costs, rising rent costs, and stagnant wages, right? There's a reason that I'm a socialist, that I want everyone to have universal healthcare, education, income, and housing. And I think with housing, like, you gotta limit people's cost for housing. Check this shit out. So I don't normally talk about the cost of living, okay? I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I don't live like in Indianapolis. I live in what I would call like a suburb township, okay? On the edge of Marion County. So I live in the city. I just live in the county, okay? Marion County, okay? I pay I think I had like a 800 something dollar a month mortgage, and then with taxes and insurance it makes my mortgage like a little over 1500 bucks. Okay. I don't think that they're going to unforgive forgiven loans. Again, I don't know that I ever saw that language. Again, he doesn't have that power to do that. You can't unforgive something. And imagine all the people that got their student loans forgiven. Do you think they're going to pay their loan? I wouldn't. Because that motherfucker's going to die. They're going to hold that entire cabinet accountable. And then who's going to fucking vote Republican the rest of our lives? Right? If you really think about who's going to survive this situation that we're in, I don't I don't think it's the people that voted for this, if I'm being real honest. It's if I'm just pointing fingers. So the best that he can get is he can delay some shit. He can somebody said that their account was changing on where did we say that? Other places have canceled their New Year's events, but the U.S. hasn't. Yeah. Somebody said, Angie said, I see shit changing in your student loan account. He can do shit like that. You get what I'm saying? The Trump administration has sued Illinois Governor Pritzker over laws shielding migrants. Oh shit. The Daily Beast. Trump, 79, declares absurd national security threat in late night meltdown. Yeah, I wouldn't be. Heard there might be a false flag in the U.S. around New Year's. I did not hear that. Where'd you hear that from? Yeah, there was. Looks like there's a couple. Oh yeah, we did talk about. Who said that? Yeah, we talked about in LA, in California. They stopped a group. They said they were anti-government. Remember, it was the TILF, and we were kind of laughing about how goofy that is. Remember that I'm not only a socialist, I'm a syndicalist, and that thing means I believe in the power of unions, and I think you should join a union. I'm in finance, and I'm deaf, and I can barely use my right hand. So I think it's a little late to learn a trade. But but I still joined a union, and I try to join. I joined Work in America, um, and I joined like a military veterans council. It's a AFL-CIO union for veterans. Um, and I think you should do the same. Yeah, I did try to look it up if there was like an active false flag warning in the United States for New Year's, and there's not. But here's again the Daily Beast about a prostitute party, kids. Yeah, this year feels like it's been a decade. Yeah, this year has been the longest decade ever. See, this tells me that it's about cruelty and not at all about following the laws. The USCIS arbitrarily strict FOIA policy is keeping some migrants from receiving their immigration records, a whistleblower is alleging. In a protected disclosure to Congress, an agency employee claims that U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services since 2024 has been finding ways to reject Freedom of Information Act requests from migrants in order to make it seem like the agency is complying with a court order. So remember, it's not about following the rules, is it? Yeah, here you go, by the way. Justice.gov. You guys are talking about a false flag. Here, FBI charged 4 people. Order of the Black Lotus with the Turtle Island Liberation Front. TILF. Oh, it's over 90 minutes. My bad, dog. Let's eat the rich, check the weather, and get out of here, yeah? I told you I could sit here all day. I mean, I can't. Especially like world news. There's something going on everywhere. We just try, keep in mind, we're just trying to like hold some stories together long enough to make sense of some shit before we all die, right? That's why I look internationally. I'm like, oh, which one of these countries is gonna nuke us? I don't think any of them are. But what do I know? Somebody said, will Pam Bondi get arrested? She should be arrested for this absolute travesty of a cover up of the Epstein files. This whole redaction fuck up is insane to me. How the fuck do you fuck up a redaction? I don't even know how to redact shit, and am also asking in the same breath, how do you fuck that up? Uh, Considerable flash flood threat. Oh boy. Oh boy. Here. Make sure. Do we get a link in there? For the live? Okay, okay, okay. The West Coast is underwater. Okay? If you probably can't even hear me if you live on the left coast because you're underwater. Literally, Washington, Oregon, California into Arizona, Nevada, into Utah with the snow. right? Mostly flooding in on the left coast, atmospheric river type shit. Okay. Now, if you move east, looks like there's some cold Utah, some shit going on in Wyoming, right? A little in Idaho, a little Montana. So like the left side of the country is getting it, right? Now you got to go all the way to New York. Apparently they got some weather going on too up into the northeast part of the country. So the middle two-thirds of the United States, pretty clear. But the left coast and the right coast, New York and California, Washington, Oregon are just straight up getting it. So keep your head on a swivel. No surprises. This is part of the reason we end the show this way, right? Is because of what happened in Hill Country, Texas. Have a great day. Have a great New Year's Eve. We'll see you tomorrow.